Namaste. I hope everybody is doing well and staying healthy during what has been, I'm sure, a challenging time for many as we all endure the coronavirus pandemic and quarantine or self-isolate ourselves. So as I'm sure most of you are already aware, over the last number of weeks or months, I've completely lost track of time at this point, the U.S. government has issued a number of fiscal stimuluses or stimuli to help bolster the economy during this difficult period. The last one was the CARES Act. That was a $2.2 trillion bill that Congress passed, and there were two stimuluses before that one. So altogether, that's about $3 trillion or so in stimulus, and all of that's going to support individuals or small businesses or large businesses and just generally prevent the economy from completely cratering into a black hole abyss. $3 trillion is a lot of money. Where is this money gonna come from? Just you wait, they're gonna come from my wallet and they're gonna hike my taxes, and that's how they're gonna pay for $3 trillion by increasing our taxes. I believe that all of this can be funded without any of us ever being affected in the least. And I'll tell you how we're going to do it. We're going to do it with the help of this guy right here. Yeah, we're going to fund these stimulus packages with the help of the people who are no longer with us or will no longer be with us in the future. So I get it. You're probably skeptical. How does that work? Well, let's get to it. First of all, the first thing we need to do is figure out how many dead people are we talking about, really? 75,000 people have died in the United States as of around the time this video will be published, okay? The IHME, that stands for the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington, because of course it does. The IHME originally estimated that we would reach 74,000 deaths in the United States by August 4th. Well, as you're probably thinking, and I know I was, gee, they're way off base. They grossly underestimated that number because we have already achieved that number right now. Go team! Not surprisingly, the IHME had to revise their estimate. So earlier this week, they came out and said, okay, we may have been mistaken, and instead we think that the U.S. will reach 134 deaths by August 4th. I'm not exactly sure why they keep choosing August 4th. This seems like a very specific day to me. I don't know what was wrong with August 1st, but apparently that wasn't working for them, so the 4th it is. Is it possible that the IHME is once again underestimating the total number of deaths as they did before? And I would argue that is very possible. So let's take a look at the daily death rate. The daily death rate from coronavirus in the United States is somewhere between 1,000 to 2,000 people a day. By early June, we are projected to hit 3,000 deaths a day. I know, you're probably as surprised as I am. You might have thought that the death rate was actually going down. Well, it's not. Okay, way to overachieve. So, we have right now an average of 1,000 to 2,000 deaths a day, possibly going up to 3,000 deaths a day. Let's go with the low end of that number. Let's say 1,000 a day. So if we take 1,000 deaths a day and look at early May to early August, well, that's 3 months, that's 90 days. 90 days times 1,000, that's 90,000 right there. There's our number. So we're now at 75,000, and we're going to add 90,000 to that 75,000. That brings us to 165,000 dead Americans by early August. Or August 4th, if you prefer that kind of specificity. Now, coincidentally, that number, 165,000, comes very close to someone else's number. This gentleman is a data scientist. His name is Yu Yang Gu. because I know we all love a little goo. So Yu Yang, can I call you Yu Yang? He predicted that we will reach 161,000 deaths by early August, which you'll notice very close to the estimate I just came up with, and I'm not a data scientist. Just for giggles, I'm going to knock it down a little bit. We'll go with 160,000. Fair? Great. So by early August, we reach 160,000 deaths. Now, we're not done yet. We're close. We still have other numbers to take into account, such as deaths from COVID-19, aka coronavirus, that were not attributed to coronavirus. Now, a lot of those happened early on in the pandemic, but some of them may still be happening now. So that means people who were died, but it was determined that their death was the result of maybe one of the complicating health factors that they were dealing with, but not coronavirus itself, or they weren't tested because there wasn't testing for coronavirus, which has been an ongoing problem, or maybe it's somebody who didn't have coronavirus but was at home and had some other health condition and they were afraid to go to the hospital because they didn't want to catch coronavirus, and then they perished. So we're going to go ahead and guesstimate a number for those people, and we're going to say it's 30,000. We had 160,000 deaths plus 30,000 unreported or unattributed to coronavirus deaths. That brings us to 190,000. But wait a minute, we're still not done, because that only brings us to August 4th. And there's a whole lot more time. We've got August, September, October, November, December. That's 5 months before we even make it to 2021. And if we keep going, January, February, March, that's about a year from now. Okay? That's somewhere between 5 to 8 months. And it's pretty reasonable to assume that there will be more people dying during that time. Now, most people say that there will not be any vaccine. At best, maybe there will be one within a year to a year and a half from now, if we're lucky. It could actually be longer than that. Sure, you could hold out hope of some kind of miracle. There's some vaccine in London that they say might be available by the start of the new year, but that still leaves 5 months from early August. And if that doesn't pan out, again, you've got potentially 3, 6, who knows how many months beyond that. So we need to come up with a number of additional deaths to come to our final total. Let's say 60,000. That seems fair. From August until this pandemic is completely over, another 60,000 pass away here in the US. That brings us to a grand total of 250,000. That's an important number. Lock that in. You're going to want to hold on to that number in your head, or grab a pen, write it down on a piece of paper if you want, because I don't have charts and graphs. We could have very reasonably gone with 1,500 deaths per day, somewhere between 1,000 to 2,000. If we had done that and you did the numbers, you crunch them, crunch away, that would bring us to a grand total of 300,000 by the end of the pandemic who will have passed away in the United States. You're probably wondering right now, like, dude, who cares? Dead people cannot help us. How does this have any bearing on anything, including your initial point of, like, the vast amount of money that government is spending to prop up the economy? All right, well, that brings us to topic number 2, Social Security. If you look at the average monthly payment through Social Security in the year of 2019 to individuals, that number is $1,474.77. Now, if you want to figure out the yearly number, you multiply that by 12, and that means that on average, each individual last year received from Social Security $17,697.24. The vast majority of people who are dying as a result of coronavirus are, in fact, 65 and older. In New York, 65 and above make up approximately 75% of the total deaths from coronavirus. And New York, at least until recently, was about half the cases of coronavirus in the US, so fairly reliable statistic. It's also true that the vast majority of the remaining deaths come from cases just below 65, i.e. 55 to 65, and then to a lesser extent 45 to 55. So the vast majority of deaths from coronavirus are people who either already are receiving Social Security or were just about to start receiving Social Security, or maybe we're going to start receiving Social Security in 5, 10, that is, as an outlier, 15 years from now. Who knows? Okay, that means that all these people who have died equals money that we have saved. How much money? In order to figure that out, we want to take a look at one last thing, and that is, what is the average number of years of life lost as a result of COVID-19 deaths? Well, fortunately for us, 2 studies have already been done to determine exactly that. The first study comes from the Wellcome Trust. Welcome. The Wellcome Trust, they have averaged that the number of years of life lost as a result of COVID-19 deaths for men is 12 years, for women is 14 years. Hashtag me too. All right, so 12 and 14, we're going to average that out. Boom, 13 years. Lucky number 13. There's a second study that was done, that was by Andrew Briggs at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, which sounds completely legit and reliable. Anyway, that study came up with a number of average number of years of life lost as a result of COVID-19 deaths. Their number was almost 14. So pretty much in the same ballpark is what I'm saying. So we're going to stick with 13 years. That is the important third number to remember. We guesstimated 250,000 people will pass away by the time it's all said and done from the coronavirus pandemic in the United States. We're going to multiply that number, and you can do it with me, by the average Social Security yearly payout for an individual, which was $17,697.24. You multiply that by 250,000 and you get $4,424,310,000, and that is a whole lot of money. Am I right? But wait, it gets even better. Because if you multiply that by lucky number 13, the number of total of years of life lost, you wind up with a grand total of $57,516,030,000. Woo-hoo-hoo, yeah! That's right. It's time to party. All right, and guess what? You know what's so great about that? We didn't have to do a thing. You didn't have to lift a finger. All that money is going to be saved just by virtue of all the people who are no longer with us, to whom I say, thank you. Job well done. Let's take a look at those 3 key numbers again. Remember, one of the 2 studies said that 13 number could actually be closer to 14, so we could have brought that up a little bit. Also, I used the Social Security average number from 2019, but the reality is Social Security goes up over time to account for inflation and increases in the cost of living. So actually, since we're talking about 13 years of time, we could have gone with a higher estimated number for Social Security payouts. That would have brought the number up too. And let's assume there is no miracle vaccine and or treatment, and the vaccine takes longer than expected, more than 1.5 years. We don't know. Guess what? That death rate, that death total in the United States, also gonna go up. So we're actually talking about anywhere from somewhere between $50 billion to $100 billion. And that is something to celebrate. Am I right? That's a lot of money. Yeah, I know. You're excited, aren't you? All right. Now, I realize some of you might be thinking, well, okay, sure. 50 billion, 75 billion, 100 billion, those are all great numbers. but they're not good enough. That's still not $2 trillion or $3 trillion. We're still deep in the hole. How do we get out? Well, there are two answers to that. The first answer, I'm happy to report, we're already at work on, and that is Generation C. The coronavirus babies. They're coming. They're only, they're under 9 months away at this point. So when they get here, mom and dad are going to have to spend a lot of money on diapers, supplies, food, schooling, etc., etc. All that money helps bolster the economy because the U.S. economy is largely propped up by consumer spending, and there's going to be a huge increase in consumer spending in just under a year from now. Also, let's keep in mind that when those coronavirus babies get older and hit their teens and early 20s, they become consumers, and suddenly we have a whole influx of consumers who are helping to bolster the U.S. economy. So we're also helping from that end of things. Okay, so that's fantastic. You may still not be convinced. What more can we do? There is one more thing. Mo deaths equals mo money. So what we have to do is bring up the number of coronavirus fatalities in the United States. How do we do that? We speed the spread. First of all, we continue to botch all the testing and tracing the way we have been all along. We make sure that there isn't enough testing, that there's no tracing going on in the United States, so that nobody has any idea how many cases are out there, who's infected, who's not infected, and everything just continues to run rampant and spread throughout the society at large. Oh, and the other thing we can do is, of course, immediately put an end to this quarantine, the whole shelter-in-place thing, which happily it seems like most states are already well on their way to doing. So yes, get out there. You got to get out there, go to those barbecues, go to those movie theaters, hit the park, have a big party, go clubbing, do what you need to do, all right, and get close. If you want to keep doing those protests, do those. Those are great. You guys are super close. Forget the masks. Spread this thing. Because the more it spreads, the more people go. And the more people go, the less we have to worry about all that government spending. Oh, I almost forgot. If you enjoyed this, then there's clearly something wrong with you, but please go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future. And if you were deeply offended by this, as well you should have been, then please subscribe anyway, and I will do my best to continue to offend you moving forward.